My name is Una Kelly. I work in UCD Sutherland School of Law, and I'll be acting as moderator today. To start with, I'd like to introduce my two colleagues and our final year student taking part today. Brian Hutchinson is Associate Professor and Head of Career Development in the School of Law. Maureen Reynolds is the Law Programme Manager, and Charlotte Ashmore is a final year student here in UCD. In terms of format, each speaker is going to say a few words, and then I'll put forward any questions that I have received in advance. We also welcome any questions you may have throughout the broadcast. So can I start by asking you, Brian, to give an overview of the choice of law degrees we offer in UCD?
Thanks, Una. Well, law, first I should point out, is an undergraduate discipline in Ireland and in UCD. And we offer, all told, 11 separate programs in undergraduate study of law, but they fall into a number of categories. The first category would comprise our pure law degree, the BCL, which is a 4-year program, and it comprises 4 years of study in law. Our second category of degrees would include our Law With programs. They comprise, again, 4 years of study, where 2/3 of study would be in law and 1/3 would be in another discipline. And the disciplines which we cover include economics, history, Irish, philosophy, politics, social justice, French law and Chinese studies. So quite a range of major minor programs there. Two others worthy of note, two other categories, so to speak, would be our dual program in French and Irish law. So we offer a degree called the BCL Maîtrise, which is an Irish law degree studied in 2 years through study in Dublin, and then a second 2 years gathering a French law degree in our partner institutions in France. And last, but certainly by no means least, we also offer a Bachelor of Business and Law degree program, and that comprises 4 years again of study, a full law degree program, so to speak, over the course of those 4 years, but also a full business degree as well.
Thank you, Brian. Maureen, if I could turn to you. Students are always very anxious to know about the amount of work that will be expected of them, how they'll be assessed, how they select their modules. Could you outline how that works in the School of Law, please?
Sure, Una. Well, at this stage, students will have been given an offer by the International Office, so I would encourage them to accept that offer as soon as possible, and that will then bring them into the system and facilitate their applying for accommodation on campus and being ready for the online registration. Now, students will register with the domestic students towards the end of August, and it's an online system. Now, prior to going online to do the registration, they can go onto the UCD website and go through a couple of tutorials. And these are very short video tutorials, 4 or 5 steps involved, so that they're ready for the online registration system. If students have any queries, they can email uglaw@ucd.ie. In terms of the registration, the majority of modules students will take in year 1 will be core modules. That means that they are required by the professional bodies and students are required to take them. So they will be pre-registered to these core modules, to both the lectures and the tutorials. So when students go into the registration system, they're simply confirming their registration to those modules. Once they do that, it will then generate an individualized timetable for each student, which they should have in advance of the term beginning. Now, orientation for the year for the incoming students takes place at the beginning of September, and we would welcome all students to attend the orientation events and encourage them to do so. International students can participate both in the international orientation and the orientation for the incoming law students. In terms of their workload in year 1, they can expect to attend lectures for 12 to 15 hours per week, in addition to which they'd be required to do independent research and also spend some time at the library carrying out research and doing additional reading. They will attend 6 modules per semester. Each module will have 5 credits attached to them. They will be assessed at the end of the semester on those modules, and we would expect that they would require the 30 credits. It's the same for semester 2, and at the end of year 1 then, we would expect all students to progress to year 2 having acquired 60 credits.
Thank you, Maureen. Now I'll turn to Charlotte. Thank you for joining us. As I said, you're a final year student and you'll be finishing your 4-year study shortly. I know that you will then be taking up an externship in California. Can you describe how that came about?
Thanks, Una. Yeah, that's right. I was really lucky to be able to get the opportunity to do this externship, and the way I came across it was simply that I got it in an email as advertised by the law school here. All students receive frequent emails on different career or internship opportunities as organised by the Career Development Centres headed by Brian. And this internship is actually organised by the Irish American Bar Council. It places a number of students, gives them the opportunity to be a judicial intern in the Federal Court of California. They appoint one student from a number of different Irish universities, and one student is appointed from UCD, and I was very lucky to get that. So it was a simple internal application process. And the reason that I applied for it was simply that I thought getting the experience of being in an American court system would be really good for my CV, my resume, in terms of getting future job opportunities, especially because law firms these days tend often, especially the bigger ones, tend to have American offices. So I would hope in the future this marks me out as a candidate.
Thank you, Charlotte. That was very interesting. Brian, we've heard from Charlotte about her externship, which you were actively involved in helping her secure. On the subject of careers, can you outline the qualification that a UCD law degree provides specifically for the United States?
So, because law is an undergraduate degree program here, it might be a little different, the route to practice than students would be used to in the United States. The first point of note is that in order to qualify to take the bar exams in the United States, one needs to have covered a varying amount of class contact hours in the study of law as an international student. So many of our students do go on to take the New York bar, which is the one which offers perhaps the easiest access for our students. In order to be able to do that, which they can do directly upon graduation, they need to have covered the requisite number of hours as a law student. For our law degree program, which is the Pure Law BCL degree program, this is an easy matter. 4 years of studying just law gives them the full coverage of class contact hours in common law, and they can take the New York bar exam straight away. Oftentimes it requires them to, of course, take for example, a Barbary course or a preparation course for those exams, same as US students would do if they were doing a US law degree. But there's no further degree programs required. Of course, as I mentioned earlier on, many of our students now do a law with program where 2/3 of their studies will be in law and 1/3 in some other discipline. In their case, they may need to make up the credit hours. This can be done for certain by taking on maybe a US LLM at an ABA approved law school. But in our experience, the New York State Board of Examiners have also taken on students of ours who have gone on to do an LLM here with us in UCD or in Ireland, or indeed in some cases where the students have gone on to pursue the Irish professional legal education courses, such as the King's Inns for Barrister at Law or the Law Society for Solicitors. I should point out also that many of our students, not only those visiting from the United States, go on to do LLMs in the US, sometimes with a view to practicing there or not, as the case may be. And very many of them go to some of the really top law schools in the States. So at any one time, we will have a lot of our grads certainly in the top ranked US law schools as well. But I would stress, I suppose, that for US students considering using our degrees as our route to practice in the States, it's a relatively smooth conversion process from taking our degrees through to either taking the New York route of entry or indeed some of the other states are a little more convoluted, but the New York is certainly the one that is most popular for our grads.
Thank you, Brian. Maureen, in the Sutherland School of Law, we pride ourselves on our facilities and the support we offer our students. Could I ask you to give a brief overview on these?
Sure. Well, any student looking on the web can see what the facilities are like in the school. They're absolutely wonderful. But in terms of actual supports for the students, the programme office would be the first point of contact. So either I or any of my colleagues would be happy to chat with students at any point. It's just a drop-in service. We would actively encourage students to participate in the orientation at the beginning of term. That's crucially important. And they will be assigned a peer mentor. So every incoming first year student is assigned a peer mentor who is in second or later year of their degree, and there will be a point of contact for them, and they spend a couple of hours with them in the first semester. Students also have an academic advisor. So each incoming student into first year has a dedicated academic advisor who's their point of contact for 4 years and who will also provide their reference for them on completion of their studies. In-house, we have in-house tutors if students have some difficulties, if they have difficulty either in researching material or want some assistance about reading material. We have, again, a drop-in service a couple of hours a week where students can come and talk to the tutors. Across the university, there are greater levels of support. There's a writing centre for students who have difficulty with writing essays, and there's the Maths Support Centre for those doing maths-based subjects. So those are resources that are available to all students. We have a dedicated student advisor within Sutherland, and Nadia Clarkin is our advisor. She's a great source of support for students. Again, it's a drop-in service that you can go and have a chat with Nadia, and she would work with other staff members at key points of the year. She's involved in organising the peer mentoring programme, and she would also give some advice in advance of the exam and post-exam sessions. And she's a great source of support to all students. I'd also refer to Brian and the support he gives in terms of careers, and he has a dedicated careers portal for students, and that's a wonderful source of information in terms of work experience, internships and graduates. So that's kind of a general overview of the type of supports that we give in the school.
Thanks, Maureen, for such a comprehensive answer. Charlotte, I wanted to turn to you then and ask you, as part of your degree, you went on a study exchange to Vienna, I believe. How did you enjoy having the opportunity to travel as part of your degree?
Yes, last year I went to the University of Vienna, Austria, for 1 semester as part of my study exchange. And it was by far the best thing I've ever done in my 4 years here in UCD. And actually, the opportunity to go on exchange was one of the reasons I chose to come to UCD, because I saw on the prospectus that there was a huge list of different places you could go from everywhere from the EU member states to Australia, to the US, to Canada, even to Singapore. So that really attracted me to come to UCD. And I chose to go to Vienna, as it turned out, because I had studied German in high school, so I wanted to try and polish that, and that's why I chose to go to Vienna. And also, it had a great reputation as a city as well, and its university is very prestigious. I had a brilliant experience on exchange. It was a great way to, I suppose, see different legal system, do different types of classes that are not available in your home university, to meet new people and just kind of grow as a person. And I think an awful lot of students in my year, most of my friends also went on exchange. It's really popular here in UCD. It's not at all uncommon. It's not difficult either, the process of doing it, and it's definitely a great advantage to studying here in Sutherland.
Thanks, Charlotte. Now what I'm going to do is turn to some questions that we received in advance. We have a number here, and I'll try and get through as many as possible. A number of students have sent in specific queries, and then one of them is actually it is related to what Charlotte was talking about there. So if I could turn to you, Maureen, and ask you, a student called Molly from Minnesota has asked, are there opportunities for international students to go on exchange?
Yes, there are. All of students are treated equally, so they're coming in for a 4-year degree. It's year 3 when students go on exchange. So depending on the programme they're on, they have the opportunity to go for the full year or to go for a semester. If they go for a semester, it's semester 2 that they would travel. Now, international students can go on Erasmus, which means going to one of our partner universities in Europe, or they can go farther. If they want to go, they can certainly apply to go to Singapore, to Canada, or they might like to go back to the US, to a different state, and go to one of the partner colleges there.
Thanks, Maureen. I have a question then from Jennifer. I'm going to direct it at you, Brian. You may have already answered this, but I'll just reiterate it anyway. Do all of the law degrees offer the same qualification in the US, or will I need to go to grad school afterwards?
So it depends on the number of credit hours that your state bar requires for eligibility to take the local bar exam. In the case of New York, as I've said, which is the one which provides the most direct access, depends on the program you take. And most of our law with programs would require you to take some further form of graduate study after your degree in order to be able to take a state bar such as New York. Most of our students would do that conversion by taking an LLM, whether here or indeed in the United States, and some of them would go the professional qualification here route. There is a mechanism, again, it varies from state to state. But the short answer to the question is it depends largely upon the program which you take with us, but the conversion process is normally relatively smooth.
Thanks, Brian. A very important question here, Maureen. I'm going to address it to you. Does UCD have any accommodation available for students?
Yes, all incoming international students are guaranteed campus accommodation. And the campus accommodation here is absolutely wonderful. It's very different to the US in that they will all have their own room, and a lot of the rooms are en suite. So I'd advise students to go online and have a look at ucd.ie/residence to have a look at the range of accommodation that's available. And once they get an offer, that they should accept it and then apply fairly immediately for accommodation.
Thank you, Maureen. I have a question here, which I'm going to put to you, Charlotte, which is Carla from Wisconsin, I think, has asked, what kind of societies are there on campus for law students?
So societies play, I'd say, a pretty big role in the life of students here at UCD. UCD has a really good reputation for its societies. It has such a big range. I think there's over 60 societies at least in UCD, everything from juggling society, dancing society, video game society, art society, to your run-of-the-mill debating societies. And in addition to that, there's also over 80 different sports clubs. I've definitely made use of these during my time at UCD. In first year, I took up kickboxing and scuba diving, so 2 different sports that I'd never even come across before I came to UCD. And I got my qualification in scuba diving, and I've still carried on kickboxing to this day, so that was great. And I've also joined a number of societies. For example, the Law Society is really big for law students. They organize activities such as they have weekly college debates where they have esteemed guests coming in, organizing very formal professional debates. Students can go and view it. We have our own debating chamber, and they're usually very interesting, and they get big crowds to go to them. They also organize mooting competitions. Mooting, for anybody who doesn't know, is basically just mock court. So kind of like debating, but in a legal context. And that's a great skill for law students to learn, and the Law Society plays a role in organizing mooting competitions. And then aside from the Law Society, there's also volunteering societies, and even there's a UCD VO Volunteer Overseas Society, which if you're interested, you can get involved with in order to volunteer overseas. So I suppose in short, yeah, there's a wide range of societies and sports clubs available on UCD where you have to pay no money because it's included in your tuition. And there's just such a great number of activities available. It's really great. There's events on every day of the week organized by these student-run societies. So that plays a very big part in the life of every UCD student.
Thank you, Charlotte. I have a very practical question which I'm going to put to you, Maureen. A student is asking, if US students need a visa if they're going to come and study here in Ireland?
No, they don't.
That's great news. And I have a question for Brian from a student called Pete. Will a law degree from Ireland qualify me to work in the UK or in Europe?
Short answer is yes, provided you cover the required syllabus at the moment for the UK Law Society or the UK Law exams. Going further afield into Europe, that's a case-by-case basis depending upon the local bar and the requirements of the local institutions. Most of our students who do go abroad in the European sense either operate in the international offices of English or US law firms who would be based maybe in Paris or in Geneva or in Vienna, as the case may be. In terms of qualification for the English bar or the English solicitor's profession, at the moment we offer in-house the required modules that would be needed to be covered in order to be exempted for access to professional training as a solicitor or barrister in the UK. There are changes afoot in England. I think we've yet to be certain what those changes will entail, but as far as we can gather, there will be no major impediment to a graduate with an Irish law degree from being able to take the qualifying entrance exam or the qualifying legal exam when it's introduced in England in a number of years' time. So for now, certainly, and more than likely for the future, the answer is yes, relatively straightforward. Again, conversion for qualification in the UK.
Thanks, Brian. Maureen, a student has asked about part-time work and whether or not they can, as a student from the US, could they work part-time while they're studying here in Ireland?
Yes, they can work up to 20 hours a week, but certainly as a law student, we wouldn't recommend that they take on that amount of work. Part-time work, we'd say maybe 12 to 14 hours max, but technically they're allowed work 20 hours.
Thanks, Maureen. And I have a few questions here from Ryan. One of them, I'll put to you, Charlotte, but you may have already covered to a degree. What are the sports facilities like for students? I know you mentioned your kickboxing, but any other sports facilities?
Yeah, there's great sports facilities in UCD. We've got 2 large gyms, an Olympic pool, all manner of fields for playing football, soccer, rugby, hurling, sports. So I would say the sports facilities are pretty all rounded. There's also, as I mentioned earlier, so many different sports clubs, which are relatively cheap to join. For example, I do kickboxing, so membership is €20 for the whole year, and that reflects pretty much how much it costs to join any sports club in UCD. So a lot of students avail of that. When you pay your tuition, you have a free gym membership, and that includes access to the 2 gyms, but also there's weekly gym classes and everything from Pilates to yoga to kettlebells. So that's also another feature. And I would say in general, UCD campus, it's always full of people going for runs. There's the forest path. And if you're into sport, UCD definitely is a great place to be.
Great, thank you, Charlotte. Ryan also asked a question which you would be in a position to answer, Maureen, about the size of the classes.
For the core modules, that students who do the foundation modules in years 1 and 2, there can be 200 in a class, but each of those modules would have tutorialized groups. So you're looking at small group teaching then, where there might be 10 to 12 students in a seminar style class. As students progress then through their degree and they're broadening their selection in terms of their personal interest in law, class sizes will be anything from 25 up to 75.
Thanks, Maureen. And the final question I have now, unless anybody tuned in has any further questions, relates to the student body and how many students we have from overseas. Maureen, you might be have the statistics on that.
I think within the school we have about 40% international students, probably more of those in the graduate program than undergrad.
Great, and then UCD generally has a very large proportion as well. Excellent. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of our live broadcast. We hope we've answered as many questions as the students have asked. If you have any further questions, you might like to address them to our email, which is uglaw@ucd.ie. If you go to our website, which is www.ucd.ie/law, you'll find information about all aspects of studying law in UCD. Thank you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing as many of you as possible in autumn 2018. Thank you.